All right, we're back. We are COMP397. I got that right this time. In the fall 2017 semester, and we are week 1, part 2 of our project, our course. It's project setup time, right? And this means using Visual Studio Code, right? So for the guys and girls who've never done it before, there's a couple things we need to set up. Now I'm using a Mac, but it doesn't matter whether you're using a Mac or Windows machine, right? I'm going to be using the terminal a lot, or a command prompt, okay? In this course, there is no quick way of doing it in terms of Visual Studio. I don't recommend it. And you should have Node.js set up. Now, I put it up as a link on Slack. Notice that I said Node.js was a tool that you needed. I highly recommend that you do that. You use Node.js for that. Notice I also have two channels on Slack right now, general and random. Please put your cat pictures on random, you know, those kind of things, any funny jokes or whatever, random, right? General is for announcements. And I'm going to make another one called developer. And this is the one we're going to use if you want to share code, examples, a solution or something like that for something that you're working on with your peers on there. And I only have, in terms of total, I have 14 people on Slack. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, I think it's about right. We're still missing about 3 people for the course. So those 3 people, when they come in, if they come in, guess what? They're going to be a team, right? Because, you know, there's 3 of them, right? And that's how this stuff rolls. Okay, so JS, and for Windows users, let's go back to Node.js for a second. For Windows users, all you need to do is go to nodejs.org, right? And click Downloads up here. Now, there are 2 versions typically of Node.js. There's a long-term stable version, right, which is 6.11, and the current latest version, which is 8.4. Okay? Bad thing that happened over the last few weeks is Node.js split again. So it went back. Originally, it was point something. Node.js was point something, and then they had another Node.js. It was Node.js.io or Node.io. And eventually they came back together, and it went from 0.9 or whatever the Node.js version was to 2. It jumped, right? And now every little while, every month, it's going up, and then they had a difference in opinion again, and they split again. So we're going to use this one, nodejs.org. That's the most common one, but there is another organization that they have. So please don't use anything else other than nodejs.org. Version, and the way to check your version on Windows or Mac is you would check like this: node -v, right? Or sorry, node -v. Arg, if I can do that again. Node -v. There we go. And you can see mine's at 8.4.0. If yours is not that, or if you get unrecognized command, right? If you're a Windows machine, you may get an unrecognized command because you didn't install it properly. You may have to do your environment variables. We've talked about this before. For people who are having problems, who's having unrecognized command on their machine? Okay, if you have unrecognized command, that's bad. You should have Node installed, right? NPM, my NPM version is 5.3. I believe the latest one is 5.4, something like that. You might have 5.4 or 5.3 something, but my version is 5.3. Why am I saying this? Because without these, are you okay? You need to update your version, right? Your version, if your version is 3.x, that's not good. I'm using the latest bleeding edge version of Node, right? But remember that it's okay to use anything greater than 6.113. That's the most stable version with NPM 3.10.10. As long as you got these 2 things, you're good. Okay? And the current version, notice that it's 8.4 with 5.3. Right? Why am I doing this? Because it's a tool for us to get our packages together. I'm just going to clear the screen here. On Mac, it's clear. On Windows, it's CLS. Okay? To clear the screen. Now, normally what we can do if we're setting up a folder is I would want to set up my project folder I'm just going to kind of close this off. I'm going to set up my project folder on my desktop. So let's just go new folder. And I want to rename my folder. Something makes sense. We're going to call this the project template, because that's what I want to use. I'm going to use the project template. We're going to build other projects from this one. So I'm going to show you how to build up your project. And we may have to continue this one for next week. And then eventually what I'm going to do is your own project altogether, right? So here's my project template folder, right? And this is really my Create.js template, like 101 kind of stuff. That's what I'm making. In order for me to get to this folder on my desktop, Mac or Windows, I'm going to go into my terminal or command prompt for Windows, CD, space, and then drag and drop your project folder to your terminal or enter. Now you're there. Are you with me? All right. This is good. This means that I have access to my template. Okay. The next thing is I'm going to put this aside, and I put my Windows side, this one here, and I'll bring up Visual Studio Code. Here's my Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is a free tool from Microsoft. It's very good, especially for TypeScript and JavaScript. What you're going to do is you're going to take your project template off your desktop and drag and drop it onto Visual Studio Code. All right. Notice that empty template in here. So it should look empty like this inside. Okay. And it mirrors whatever we have in here. I'm going to create some basic folder structure. Now, you guys who've been with me before know what it is, but please bear with me as I tell it again. So I'm going to create a new folder here inside Visual Studio Code. The way to do that is, if you notice in Visual Studio Code, you have this little icon, which means file, and this little icon is folder. I'm going to click the folder icon and add a new folder, and I'm going to call it content. I'm going to click away from the content folder and make another folder. I'm going to call it scripts. I'm going to click away from the folder and click another folder. Right? So you have assets, content, and scripts. Asset, content, and scripts. Very nice. Okay, so these are the three folders that I require you to have. You know, now you could do things differently than this, but I recommend doing it this way. Okay, great. I need some files now. The first file I want to get is my index.html. Let's make that first. So remember, it is a website we're making, right? So I'm adding my index.html at the root. Okay, and I'm starting from scratch, right? And the first thing I'm going to put together is my doc type, right? HTML, you should know how to do this. And the great thing about Visual Studio Code, it comes with something called Emmet, which allows shortcuts for HTML. So I'm going to type HTML. Inside my HTML, I'm going to have a head tag. And then next to that, I'm going to have a body tag. That's the shortcut. Press tab, and I get this, right? I'll undo that so you can see that. It's this. And I'll make it bigger so you can see that, so you can see a little bit. I don't know if that's better for you. You can also use brackets. This is called Emmet, this shortcut stuff. And in brackets, by the way, I'm going to put Emmet on there for you. So if you want to know what Emmet is, Emmet, I think it's .io. It is. I'm going to put this on. This is some really good documentation about how Emmet works. It tells you how to make Emmet work, right? Emmet docs, especially for syntax. Here it is. So here's the abbreviation syntax. I'm going to take this and put it on Slack. Okay, so that's the link for the Emmet syntax on Slack. I just put it out there for you. So if you don't know what Emmet is, you can look it up. But more or less, it's a group of shortcuts, and that's what we're going to be doing, right? So when I type this, it creates the HTML tag inside of that. The greater than sign means inside of the HTML tag, there's a head tag. I can also use parentheses like this and like this. And I create my HTML really quickly. And inside my head tag, I'm going to probably have a couple of meta tags, right? So meta times 3, right? 3 meta tags. And look, it gives me a preview of what it's going to look like at the end. That's really cool. It's a new feature with Visual Studio Code. And in my body tag, I'm also going to have a canvas tag, right? So in my body tag, I have a canvas tag. Right? Notice that it does this right now. That's my preview so far. 2 meta tags, I can take that back. And next to the meta tag, I put more brackets like this, right? So you can see what I've got so far, right? I want to put a title tag, right? Because I need that too. Now if I press tab at the end, that's what activates the shortcut, tab, right? So I go right to the end, and if I did everything correctly, now you got to figure what I'm doing here, right? If I hover over and I don't see a shortcut for all this stuff, like, so I said HTML inside there, I have my head. Inside my head, I have a couple of meta tags, right? Plus my title. If it doesn't work, and if I press tab, it'll give me this. It'll give me nothing. If I take the meta tags away, I know this is the problem, right? So in my head, I got my, or I missed a bracket. So I wanted to really do one of these. That's what I really wanted to do. If it's a bracket that's missing, you just take the brackets away, or if there's an extra bracket, put it back. You know, one of those kind of things. And that's what I'm really looking for. And it's some kind of problem, let me see, head, with the brackets. Yeah, because this head is underneath the body. This head is here, and then the body is separate. Sorry. Just going to make sure I do it right. Let's go back and try it again. See, to me, I'm just trying to show you, but then, so here's my head. There's my preview on the right, right? In my head, I have, as an example, a meta tag times 3, and then next to the meta tag times 3, I have a title tag, right? And then next to that, I have a body tag. See that, the preview? And inside the body tag, I have a canvas tag. If I press tab, it should do it. Huh?
You have to press Control.
Yes, I know. Control space, right? That's a new thing. Yeah. Anyways, so that's the problem. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's a new plugin. It's, yeah. It's a new thing they're doing. Anyways, so it doesn't matter. Here we go. So we've got my 3. I don't need 3. I need 2. That's why I took one away. My HTML tag, I want to make my language is equal to English. I want to put that in there. My character set here, my first meta tag is equal to UTF-8. This just makes it compatible with what I'm doing. And this one is going to be my name is equal to viewport. And my content is equal to width is equal to device dash width. And then comma, initial scale. I'll share this with you in a second, is equal to 1. And this is kind of important because what it does is it makes it compatible with mobile devices. Title, I want to put my project templates, and I'll make it so it's more Create.js project templates. Show you what it is. Inside my title, underneath my title, I want to put a comment that this is where my CSS section is. So I'm going to put my CSS in there. That's because most of the stuff we're going to be doing is with JavaScript here. It's not a web, necessarily a website. It's more JavaScript. Canvas. My canvas is going to have an ID that's equal to canvas. There we go. Now you can program that differently as well. You can put this inside of other things. Before my body tag ends is where my JavaScript section is going to be. Here's my JavaScript section. There we go. Oops. And that's the first piece, right? So let's say you weren't fast enough, you didn't do it like me or whatever. Hey, this is a great place to put it up on GitHub, right? Because I've got my index.html, my first project piece. I'm not quite done, but I want to initialize my GitHub repository. So notice on here on the left, if you have Git installed, and if I go back to my terminal, if you have Git installed locally, you should be able to do something like this, git --minus version, right? I have version 2.12.2. You will have a different version. I have a Mac. If you can't get this and you get unrecognized command, you need to fix that. Again, going into your environment variables and making sure that Git is registered with your path. Okay. So this is good. This is a good sign. I want to go up online. I'm going to go back to my GitHub. Here's my GitHub. I'm going to create a new repository. When I create a new repository, it's pretty simple. I just create a new repository right here by pressing the plus. It's going to be under Centennial College. I shared this link with you on eCentennial. So new repository. I got to make sure that it's Centennial, right? And underneath that, I'm going to put in the repository name. I'm going to call it COMP397. That's what we're doing here. Dash F2017 project template. Project dash template. It's a big name, but you'll know what it is afterwards, right? And then I'll press enter. So this is the name of the repository, right? I also get this thing right here, which is the link to create my remote, right? Remember, all I need is I need a couple things. I need to initialize my Git repository. In fact, I can almost take all this, but I need this part here, Git init, right? I'm going to copy this for now and paste it. I'm going to do it all locally with my, there's other ways of doing this, but I'm going to do it like this time around and press enter. So what it does is it initializes my repository, right? That's what it does here. I just took the first command off my repository. Okay, instead of git add readme, I don't have a readme file, but I want to add everything. So I'm going to say git add dot. Git add dot adds everything to your Git repository, and then press enter. And then I need to make my first commit. Again, I'm just grabbing these last 3 lines like this, right? Grab these last 3 lines, copy them, and then paste them. For Windows, you may have to press right-click paste or just right-click, depending on your terminal window. All right, and I've connected to Git successfully. I did my first commit, called first commit, right? I uploaded everything to GitHub by pushing it to the master branch. That's what this one does down here, right? And I'm using the origin remote. That's what this piece means. Origin is the origin remote, right? And this is the origin remote I've added right here. This is the link to the origin remote. And now if I refresh, you can see that it's up on GitHub. So please look to GitHub. If you couldn't get the index.html, if you didn't do it fast enough, or if I was too fast, so far it worked together. Okay. Now there's something you need to know. Notice that for people, and I'm gonna assume you don't know this. So if you do know this, that's great. We're just gonna move on. Take any folders here right now. Why? Because there's nothing in them. Even though locally I have folders, right? Like if I clear my repository of my screen here and press ls, I can see that I have 3 folders: assets, content, and scripts, and an index.html. But GitHub only has my index.html. Why? Because there's nothing in these folders, so it doesn't care. It only puts stuff up when there's something in the folders. Let's put some stuff in the folders. So I'm going to go back to this, right? Now, here's my CSS section. I'm just going to kind of open this up here for a second. What I want to do is make a new file. I'm going to click on my folder and on Visual Studio Code, right-click, new file. And inside there, I'm going to make it game.css. Inside my game CSS, I'm going to add some basic stuff, right? So I want to target the canvas element. So here's my canvas element, or the canvas ID, sorry. So anything that has a canvas ID on it. And what I'm going to say is it's going to have a border of 1 pixel dotted black. Okay, that's what it's going to do. That's my little CSS I'm writing. All this is going to do is going to put a border around my canvas. We can see the canvas we're drawing to. In the future, when you make your game, your canvas is going to be different than mine, and you might decide to make a different size. I'm going to make mine 640 by 480. You can make yours 800 by 600 or something else, right? Remember, this is just a template that I'm giving you. Okay. So this piece here, even though I've made it and it's inside my content, it needs to be connected to my index.html. The index.html, remember, is the manifest for everything else. So here's my index.html. Notice that there's nothing here. I cannot drag and drop. In Visual Studio, you can just drag and drop. You just do one of these, right? What I wanted to do, right? What I really have to do here is do this. Start typing link, and then press tab, right? And if I press tab, now I got to put in the absolute or relative address. I'm going to put a dot first, and then a slash. On Windows, it's going to be instead of dot forward slash will still work for you. And you want to go content, and then game.css. Okay. Dot slash means local to the root. Go to content and then game.css. Connected my style sheet. Now the best thing to do is test it. Okay. This is before I do anything else, guys. Okay. First of all, my canvas does not have a size. One of the things I have to do to modify my canvas is give it a size. So for now, I'm going to give it a height and a width. So width first, 640. That's pixels. And then a height of 480. That's what my canvas has right now. Great. I want to see the website. How do I do it? Terminal. By the way, for those people who are really good at Visual Studio Code, it has an integrated terminal. We're going to get to later, right? For now, though, this is good. I want to download a new piece of code. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say npm, for those people who don't have it, install light-server -g. I'm using npm. Remember, I'm using Node. npm is just my package manager that I'm using to grab stuff. And if you download and install Light Server, what it does is it goes up on the web, goes to the npm repository, grabs a little package called Light Server, and downloads it and installs it in your. No, I will not do this. Don't ever try and do this. It'll totally screw you up, right? I will wait until I update my node. This is the bleeding edge version of npm. No. I'll let it tell me again. Okay, I'm going to clear. I have to be in my project template folder like we are right now. And then I'm going to just type light-server. As long as I have an index.html, this will work. Press enter. It'll trigger. And you see automatically that that's my canvas. That's what you should have right now. Two things happen here. One, I tested my CSS. It works because all I did was put a border around my canvas. That's what I'm doing here. A dotted border, right? It's 640 by 480. This is good. And I've tested it. Now, here's the great thing. And I'm just going to get rid of some of this extra work here because I've got some extra links. And it makes it more difficult for me to work when I do this, right? So I'm just going to get rid of it, except for this one maybe. I'm not going to get rid of this one or this one, all right? But let me show you this. So here's my canvas, right? And if I really want to, one thing I can do is I can shrink this stuff here so that it just takes up less room. I'm going to just make the font a little bit smaller so you can see it, right? So here's my font, here's my canvas, and here's my game.css. Notice it's black. Let's make this red. And watch what happens to my canvas. If I just, by the way, a new version of Visual Studio Code has this built into it. If I hover over, I can just pick a color, right? And then save, and then look, it's red. Instantly. That's why I use Light Server. It's instant feedback on what happened with browser. Browser sync is what it's called, right? Light-server inside your project folder. Yeah. Automatically start the default browser. All right, so again, if I wanted to make this, to give you more examples, if I wanted to make this instead of 1 pixel, I want to make it 5 pixels, make it really dramatic, and save. You can see that it's 5 pixels now. Okay, just to give you an idea how fast it is. So this is great because we're getting instant feedback on the browser, right? We don't have to wait. We don't have to reload. It's a little server that runs inside your machine. This is a great way of doing our development, right? Instantly see what we're getting, right? Okay, I don't want this. This is too big and too ugly. I want to go back, so I can just go back to what it was before, which is black, and save. And as long as I save, it goes back to my dotted bold border. But I just wanted to show you that. All right, cool. So, so I've got this thing going. I want to do the same thing for scripts. And remember that this is the main thing that I'm doing here. I'm scripting. I want to get this going, right? So a couple things. Inside my scripts folder, I don't have anything right now. Now, question for you guys. Should I continue or should I put it up on GitHub? What would you do? GitHub, right? I just added a file, and it might be a good opportunity for me. These are the changes I made. Now, I did it on terminal last time here, but I'm running Light Server. And because Visual Studio has good GitHub integration, as long as GitHub is working on your terminal window or command prompt, I can do it right from here, right from Visual Studio. So notice I have a message, and I have these. This is a modification, and this is an update or an add. This gets added, this gets modified. There's two changes. If I click plus, it accepts both changes, right? Those are the two changes. And then I can add a message, right? Added game.css. And if I press the checkbox, right, and then go here and push, it's exactly like using the command prompt. So I don't have to use the command prompt here. I can just use this or the terminal. And if I check my GitHub, just to check my GitHub, right, you can see that if I check, I should have two commits now, right? And my first commit was my first commit, and then I added my game.css. And if you notice now on my code, I have my content folder, because inside my content folder is a game.css file. Yay, let's go back. Great. I'm going to go to here, and now my scripts folder is kind of lonely. And you know what? We have to structure things nicely. Think about this. I'm going to have my core game. I want to separate it and encapsulate it in a core folder. That's what I want to do, right? So I'm going to right-click here. I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it core. Game.js is going to live, except we're not using JS. We're using TypeScript from the very beginning, right? And what is TypeScript, for those people who don't know? It is a superscript of JavaScript. If you go to typescriptlang.org, they have a fantastic documentation. I'm going to copy this and put it onto Slack for you guys to know where to go. We're going to be using TypeScript for the remainder of the course, right? So it's good to learn it. One good reason to learn TypeScript is it's being supported. First of all, it's made by Microsoft, supported by Google with their AngularJS, which is version 4 something now, right? And so Microsoft and Google are both using it. This is a good reason to use it, all right? It's not because it's something made by Microsoft no one's going to touch. It's a very popular superscript that makes TypeScript not only easier, but object-oriented. So we can use object-oriented TypeScript to split our project across multiple files and everything else. This requires us to do two things. We need some kind of compiler info. How do we compile or transpile from TypeScript to JavaScript? Because our index.html doesn't understand TypeScript. It only knows JavaScript, right? Like Babylon.js, when we're using ES6, TypeScript does the exact same job. It translates our beautiful code, right, into ugly JavaScript. And forgive me for people who love JavaScript. I love JavaScript because it's unstructured if you're a programmer. Here's an example of this. If I go to TypeScript on the top, right, and notice on the left, I'm going to make a new class. Okay, here we go. Make a brand new class. Okay, let's follow me here on Playground under TypeScript. If you go to Playground, let's think about what we do in Java or C#. Okay, in Java or C#, I want to make a class called person. So I type in class. This is like what we do in C#, right? And I type person. Look at the right. Right? And inside the class person, I have a constructor. This is TypeScript, right? In my constructor, maybe what I want to do is, and follow me here for a second, I'll explain everything later. I want to, in my constructor, take two variables, two parameters, one called name, which is a string, right? And one called age, which is a number. Okay? And if I want to, I can put nice little comments, right, like I normally do. So I can say this is my constructor, right? I can call this my class, right? You can put all kinds of class person class. We're going to get into more commenting in a second, right? And maybe I want to have one method, right? Here's my public methods. Public methods, maybe if I put public the right way. There we go. my public method is going to be talk, right? Or speak. Let's call it speak. So I'll say public speak, capital S, right? Maybe I want to say speaks because that it's a verb, speaks, right? And in my person speaks, I want to do a console log where I want to say, you know, the name of the person, this dot name is equal, you know, and then plus space, you know, says hello. Okay. Which one is easier to read, please? Left side, right side. They do the exact same thing at the end. Because I'm going to translate this stuff with my compiler, my transpiler, actually. It's not a transporter like Star Trek. I'm going to transpile from TypeScript to JavaScript, right? And it's beautiful code. You understand it because you've taken object-oriented programming. You've done programming 1 and 2, right? Maybe 3. I don't know, depending on your year, right? And you understand this. You can see what I'm doing. It's clear. It's visible. Here, you have some confusion. You look at it and going, wait a minute, where's my constructor? Why is it a function within a function within a function? I don't understand. I'm going to explain those things because you should know object-oriented JavaScript anyway. It's not fair for me to take that away from you. But it makes it so much easier, and we have no time. We have 14 weeks to make a fully compatible cross-platform game, right? And we need to make it object-oriented, split across files. We need to make a finite state machine to go from one scene to the other. And we're using a framework, not a framework, but a set of libraries called Create.js. We have a lot of stuff to do. We have no time to do it. We need a hand to do this stuff. And that's why I'm using TypeScript. Okay? It's not unusual. I can make enterprise level applications with TypeScript, right, in Angular. Right? So there's nothing wrong with learning this. Okay, so here it is. This is what the difference is. And this is why I use TypeScript. I use TypeScript because, right, it transpiles automatically, right? And I can do so much with it. Let's leave this example for now. How about testing it? How do I test it? Well, look, down here I can say something like, well, just like we normally did in any other language, I can say, well, let my person, so Tom, which is of type person, is equal to a new person, which I need. Look at the code hinting I'm getting, right? I never get that with JavaScript, period, right? I need my name and an age. Oh, I hate doing this, but 25, sure. I'm not 25. Maybe double that, almost. And then I can also do, well, tom.speaks, right? Because that is my method. So this is all the same stuff. Take a look what it looks like on the right. It's almost identical. In fact, any kind of JavaScript will work within a TypeScript environment, right? Notice how I converted the let here, ES6 feature, to var, ES5 feature, right? Why? Because it's more compatible. Let not 100% compatible with all browsers. It'll work on any device, right, if we do it this way. Eventually, we're just going to have TypeScript or something like it, ES7, ES8, whatever it's going to be at the time. Yes?
So the let is like the declaration of a variable in this case?
Yes, it is. The difference between var, remember what var does, for you guys to know, to understand JavaScript. And guys, I'm timing out already. I only have 40 minutes to show you this stuff, right? We're going to do more next week, so don't despair, right? But I want you to think about what we're doing here. Var is actually declared down here, right? But what's really happening with JavaScript is it's hoisting var to the top. It's actually something of a negative for JavaScript. And also, notice that I'm declaring my prototype speaks, right? Well, even if I declared it up here or down there, JavaScript will hoist. It causes some kind of weird bugs sometimes. Let in ECMAScript 6, ES6, actually, wherever it's declared, just like var, it stays there. It doesn't hoist. That's a really good thing. That gives you more protection from creating variables and using them. So that's what it is. And it's an old thing it makes JavaScript more fluid and more flexible, but also less type safe. This way, the old way. But now we're converting, right? We're converting the new stuff to the old stuff this way. Okay? Cool. So I need to do that. So let's go back and set up a project to take TypeScript. So before we go and put anything in our core folder, my core folder is something called, for now, Here's my new file. I want to call it game.ts. Game.ts. Not a JS. JS would be JavaScript. TS would be TypeScript, right? And I want to connect it down here, right? So this is what it would look like this. So I would say script source is equal to, right, scripts, and then, again, it will be dot slash scripts, right, core / game dot JS. My HTML doesn't understand, right? It does not understand TS. It only understands JS extensions. I have to transpile it. I need a JS file. It's going to look inside the core folder and have a 404 error. It's not going to find a JS file, right? To set up my transpiler to understand how it works. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to come down here, click a new file, and I want to put this new thing called tsconfig, so TypeScript config.json. By tsconfig.json, what it does, it sets up a JSON file that, if I press Control space, it sets up some options. What I want is my compiler options to come up. So I press Control space to get that. In my compiler options, I want to choose a target. My target is going to be ES5, not ES6, because I want to make it cross-compatible, right? Then I also want to choose, if I start looking at other stuff, right? So I got my target. That's one. And let's take a look at other stuff that's there. I also want to set up some source maps and make that true, right? So target is one. Let's take a look at other things it can do, okay? Because there's a lot of stuff that, if I press Control space, that allows. So allow JS, character set, things that I can change in my compiler that we're not going to do. Lib, locale, map. I want to talk about the modular system as well. Module tells TypeScript how I'm going to split across different files. Several different module systems, right? One of them is CommonJS. There's also, what else? Lots of other ones, right? There's AMD, CommonJS, ES 2015, ES6 modular splitting, ES Next, None, System, and UMD. I want to use the one that's the default, which is CommonJS. So this describes how my compiler, my transpiler, will take from TypeScript and go to JavaScript. This is I'm picking the JavaScript version that I'm going to, which is ES5. Save. So I've got this part here, right? I'm not done. Okay, this is I'm just configuring, right? Command-Shift-B, if I press Command-Shift-B, what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, cool, well, select the task to run. I want to do this one, right? It actually sets up my task to run. It says terminal will be reused by tasks, right? And what it just did, take a look at this, it just transpiled from TypeScript to JavaScript when I press Command-Shift-B. So take a look at that. Nothing's in there because my TypeScript file is empty, right? But I have 3 files now. A game.js, a map file, because that's what I told it to do. Make a map file is what this says, right? And then my TypeScript file. So those 3 files. So I'm going to get 3 files every time I convert from JavaScript to JavaScript, right? Okay, my game.js file I want to connect. I've already done that. Let's test it. So to do this properly, I'm just going to make some room here. And in my game.ts, yes? Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes, you do. Let me just stop this. You're so right. I'm going to Command-C for this one, or Control-C. And I'm going to clear it. You're so right. Of course, TypeScript, right? -G. And if you do that, it's going to download and install the latest version of TypeScript. Please do that, or else this won't work for you. Thank you for that. All right, once you've got that, you can always test it out. You can see what version of TypeScript you have, TSC-V. Right, my version of TypeScript is 2.5.2. The one that shows on the website for TypeScriptLang.org, if I go back to TypeScript, is 2.5. So I'm up to date. Thank you for that. Now it should work. All right. Let's run light server just so we can keep that going. Right. So light server is still running, right? If it wasn't running, we would see the problem right here. Okay, let's go back. So now we have our game.ts, and what I want to do is I want to test it, right? See if it translates really. We haven't translated anything. It just made 3 empty files. That's not good. So the first thing I want to do is create an IFI. And for those people who took JavaScript with me, this stands for an immediately invoked function expression. An immediately invoked function expression is a closure. That's what it is, right? And it looks really ugly. It looks like this. Right? And inside here, this stuff gets immediately run. It's an immediately invoked function expression, or some people like to call it an anonymous self-executing function. It self-executes. This part here, right here, calls itself. Right? So this is a closure. Why a closure? It makes our variables stop leaking out into the regular domain, the regular namespace. So we don't have any more global variables. Global variables are encapsulated inside my function. Right? All right, this is good. And now to test that, I want to create, and you're going to love this, a function called start, right? I want to make a function for now, just to structure it. Tell me what this looks like for people who've done other things with me. And a function called update, right? And a function called main for now. Okay, so just a few functions in there. So I've got my function, start, update, main. Here's what I want to do at the bottom, though. At the bottom, I'll make this smaller so you can see it a little bit. At the bottom, I want to use an event handler on the window. In JavaScript, we have access to the document object. We also have access to the window object. The window object, when the window loads, I want this thing to run immediately. So I'm going to type window.onLoad. And when the window loads, I wanted to point to my start function. I'm getting a reference to my start function as the event handler of the onload event. Here's my start function, right? That means if everything runs correctly, right, in here, I'm going to do a console log. It's going to say game started for now, by the way. But this is a good test. All right, well, if this ran well, right, and if it was transpiled, then in my game.js, we would have something in there. But notice that it did not transpile. So I have to press Command-Shift-B, right? It's going to build this task out. And then what it does, it transpiles everything over here. Control-Shift-B on Windows machines. Remember, Command. If I say Command, that's Mac. Control Windows. All right, so that's what it would do. So it creates this other game.js file over here. Control-Shift-B. Yeah, we got to fix that problem, right? How about you guys? Did it work for you? Huh? You're not doing it. We will. You're too fast for me, man. Wait for me. Wait for me, man. Yes, we can use TypeScript syntax. I can make a module, and I will in a second. Okay, so let's take a look. So this is some basic syntax here, and this is a function. Is the only part of JavaScript we're going to keep. And you'll see later on, we'll modify it later. Okay, so this is good. How do I test this? Well, if I go back to my window, here's my window, and if I go right-click and inspect, then it should bring up my console. And if everything worked, then yay, right? But, oh man, what happened? How come it didn't go to start? Can anyone guess? Well, first of all, let's take a look at what I'm getting, right? Am I still in sync? That's the question. And if I was, this would be running, right? So let's try this. Let's cancel this out and type it again, light-server. Let's go to here. And let's go to my console, and I don't get anything. Not getting anything is a bad sign, guys. That means somehow the code, I never get here. I need to transpile, right? Transpile back again, right? Now I'm going to show you a shortcut later. Now you can see that the console log has been added. And if I go back here, right, if I had a problem, right, with this, it would transpile into here. Now it says, so window.onload starts. I'm calling my start method. It's not going in here. Huh? What do you mean? No. There's no this in this case. So why not? Why isn't this working, right? Well, there's a couple reasons why this could be. One, this isn't linking properly. That's the first thing that could be the problem, right? So scripts, core, game.js, not linking properly to the main file. Something like this, right? So maybe this I haven't saved, or this I haven't saved, or something else. And the way to test that, of course, is to save all. Make sure that that's all saved, right? This would be updated automatically, so we would see in here. And the other thing to do is check sources. So see what actually it has, what it's seeing here, right? So maybe something else. I'm just going to take this away. So notice in my scripts core, some troubleshooting. I can see this, game started, console log. What was that? The filter? No, I don't think so. I like your thinking though, but no. And then here's my JS file, game.js, right? Game started. So source map detected. This is good. So I don't care about this again. Or this, right? So I know that this is working okay, right? And I know that this is working okay because I'm seeing the files physically here in the browser, but I'm not getting anything. I want to see console log started method running, triggered, right? With my window on load event. Are you guys getting something different?
Yes, in my case, the TypeScript's not being
Could B's not building?
no.
We're going to take a break, and then well, actually, at the end of class, I can try and fix you, right? But this is a problem, right? And I got to find out what the problem is, right? Why is it not linking? All right, so what if, and this is something you can try as well. If my file is loaded, right, and I'm not going to transpile, I can also update my JavaScript by itself. So let's do, on the top of JavaScript file, another console log. Hey, right? Hey, right, there we go. And save. And then I should see hey, right? If I go to my console log, that's a problem. If I don't see hey in my console log, that means somehow my JavaScript's not linking. Yeah. Oh. I never filtered anything. Huh. You were right? I didn't even see that. But why? What's being filtered? I never filtered anything. I never filtered a damn thing, right? Yeah, I want verbose. All levels. Okay, let's try that again. So we know it's working. It was always working. I was like, what the heck? How come it's not working? All right. And there we go. So it says violation, avoid using document.write, right? X line 11, okay, which is right here. Source is equal to browser. This is not me, actually. It's my browser, my automatic browser working. So don't worry about that. But that's neat that the new version of Chrome is giving me this stuff. The only thing I care about if I refresh is this, game started, okay? I never use document.write. Game started. All right, cool. So game started means that everything worked as it should be. If I went to TypeScript and if I Command-Shift-B or Control-Shift-B on the PC and click this little button right here, and because I have my tsconfig.json working, it's going to transpile into this started. Everything works great. Okay, great. Next. And this is the final part that I can do before we go, because this takes the longest part. All right? And I'm telling you, this is, once we build this up, trust me, it's going to be okay. But it's just set up. Once we set this up and we continue to build on this thing, power. That's why I don't want you to use Phaser. I don't want you to use any other framework. I want you to use bare bones, and this is the bare bones I can get without using Canvas by itself, right? Create.js. Okay, so what do I do next? Well, remember that I want to use Create.js, right? So here's my Create.js frame or suite of libraries, right? Create.js has 4 parts. The one that deals with the canvas is Easel.js. In the documentation for Easel.js, you can see that it has some examples. I need to set up a stage. A stage is a JavaScript container. Notice I didn't say a HTML container. JavaScript container is an object. And it sits inside of the canvas element, right? So it lives and dies in the canvas element. We're going to be playing with the canvas element this entire semester, right? The canvas element is a HTML5 element that gives us a structure for where you can have canvas events occur, okay? So I need to set up a stage here, and I need to call the create.js.stage event. But in order for me to do this, I need to download my libraries. Now, there's a couple ways to download them. If I go back to create.js, I could just download. But man, I got to download each library. What if they're not up to date? So I'm going to use Bower, right? So I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to stop my automatic browsing. Clear the screen. And I'm going to install a new package, npm install Bower -g. So Bower, what it is another package manager for the web. It's not deprecated yet, but it's almost at its last legs. They're trying to replace it with a better package. I'll tell you right now, they're still using it everywhere, right? But if I install it, it's going to say, hey, wait, look, deprecated, Bower 1.8.0. And while Bower is being maintained, we recommend using Yarn or Webpack. Yarn is great. Webpack is fantastic. Neither of them work with Create.js, right? So that's why I'm using Bower. It has nothing to do with, do I not like them? I like them, but not for what we're doing. So Bower is fine to use. Do I have to use Bower? No, you can just download manually. But I don't want to download anything manually. I need to set up a Bower script to set up my folder structure. So I'm going to right here inside this area here, I'm going to put another file in the core, my root of my folder. So away from here. In the root of my folder, I'm going to put a .bower.rc. And my Bower.rc file is going to have a definition for my configuration for Bower, which it's going to have my directory structure. Instead of all the stuff I download from the web going to something called Bower components, right? I want this to be inside of my scripts, and I want to put it in another subfolder called lib for all my libraries. So it's going to go into scripts, lib, Bower. Scripts lib. All right, that's one. Now I want to initialize my Bower configuration, and I need a JSON file for that. Instead of building it manually, what you can do is you can go here on the terminal and you can run Bower init. And what this does, Bower init, it actually takes the name of the project. I'm just going to call this create.js, and I'll say -template. I can accept project templates. That's the name of my folder, but I don't want to. And then what it does is going to ask you a series of questions. The description of my file, project template, my main file, if I have one, some keywords. Maybe I want to add create.js. Okay. And if I have if I've attached it to GitHub, it'll give me this. This is MIT. And my home page right now is pointing to my GitHub home page. And if I press Control Enter, 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 it gives me a base file, which is the configuration for why do I need this. It keeps track of all my dependencies. That's what Bower does. These are all my dependencies for my project, right? I'm going to put this up on GitHub in a second, all right? So if you don't have it, and if I went too fast, and I probably went too fast for most of you, and I'm going to do this again. I'm going to continue this next week. You're going to see it again. That's how it's done. All right, so cool. So I've got my Bower configuration, and I'm going to now use Bower instead of npm to grab those create.js folders, right? So I'm going to say Bower install. I use a verb just like npm, and then I'm going to say easel.js, right? Minus save. Okay, see that? And what it does is it goes out to easel.js, and instead of me downloading it and putting it into the right directory, it puts it there for me. And the same thing goes with the other ones. Bower install queen.js, minus save. And you can also do them all at once. Bower install sound.js and preload.js, minus save. And it just grabs both of those things. Now, if I did everything correctly, right, it's going to be inside of my scripts lib folder. See? It attached all this stuff inside of my folder structure. So I don't have to, these are all the libraries that I'm going to need. And we're going to add other ones later on. .js for your gamepad, so you can use your gamepad, right? We're going to add some other kind of physics. Maybe we'll use a physics library later on. We'll see how it goes, right? Some kind of particle effects library we're going to need later on as well. And other things to make our project fatter and fatter, but more functional, right? Hey, this is great, right? But with JavaScript, the problem is we never get code hinting, and TypeScript is amazing at code hinting. So there's something called TypeScript definition files that we need to get to attach this. Now, in order for me to do that, I'm almost done, I swear. You're looking at me like, I'm never going to do this. You're going to do it, trust me, right? And you need to know how to do this. So I'm just going to close some of these off because they're not active right now. So this is my structure right now. Yes. Okay, now you're good? Okay. So this is my structure. And and again, see all these 74 changes that I made? Look at, these are all the files that I added so far, right? That's just not me. That's also the package that I downloaded, right? I want to add one more configuration file, which is my npm configuration file, right? Now, in order for me to do that, I'm going to go into my terminal again, or command prompt, and I'm going to do npm. My npm init file, what it does is doesn't make sense. npm install package afterwards to install a package and save it. Press Control C. What the heck? No. Package.json is that? No, that's wrong, man. That's really wrong. I've never seen that before. That's a new thing. That's an error on my part. npm init should not do that. It should actually install a whole npm package that keeps track of stuff. Yeah, that is whack, guys. And just to fix that for now, I'm going to go. I don't know. That's my problem. npm init. No, it's package default. No, see, it should give me a default package. I'm just going to go and grab this and put it into my files for a second. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for, right? All this, right? I don't need all this, but that's the kind of stuff I want. I'm just going to grab and, sorry about this. I don't know why it's doing that for me. It's my own problem. I'm sorry? No. Yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work. It gave me this, right? So I'll fix that. So this will be called, I'm just going to put this in there instead of me having to type it all. It's going to be called the create.js -project -templates. Version is going to be 1. Are you starting? Main, I'm going to leave that as blank for now. Scripts, same thing. I'm not going to have a test script. I'm just going to leave this as blank. We're going to fill this in later. repository type is Git, but this isn't the repository. I'm going to get my repository from online. Actually, I can get it from my bower.json file. This one. That's my repository right there. That sucks, guys. I'm so sorry. That's beyond my control, is what they say, right? I don't know what that is. Why I did that. And author is me, not. License is MIT, because that's the one I chose for the other one. Description, and this is create.js project templates. And here are my dependencies. Obviously, I don't have any of these inside my dependencies. I'm going to get rid of these. And I don't have any dev dependencies either for now. And my keywords, I'm going to leave as empty. And my files, same. Oof, what waste of time. Anyway, so we've got this new package.json file. And what this does is it keeps track of my dependencies, right? So what I want to do is I want to include a new package in my local folder. So I'm going to say npm install, right? And what I want to do is @types. This is the type definition file for create.js or easel.js. And it's a development dependency. It's not a project dependency. So it's minus save minus dev. No description fields, no templates, no README file, no license field. It's not defined. It's not finding it. Oh. Isn't that interesting? Whatever. So it created another thing for me. I'm having a real issue, guys. It's nothing to do with you. This is me with my packs. I'm just going to clean this up right now. Leave it alone for now because it keeps track of my types. Okay, next, let's keep doing that. What it does is actually installs inside node modules. It installs my type definition library for easel.js and tween.js. So when I use TypeScript, it gives me code hinting. That's what I'm looking for. So I don't have to guess to see what methods and stuff it has in my libraries. Wow, this is really messed. And it probably won't be doing this for you at all. I'm guessing it'll be 2 seconds for you. Next one, so npm install @types, and then / and then the next one. So I got easel.js. I'm going to install tween.js anyway, even though I know I have it, just to show you what it looks like. Maybe the same errors. npm install, I don't care. Install @types. I never have to do this again, that's why. I don't have to worry. Sound.js, minus save, minus dev. npm install @types, preload.js, save, minus dev. What this does is it installs everything I need. I guess I don't need the type definition, sort of the package libraries, package.json or bower.json, but I like to keep them in there because, let me just make sure I got everything. There we go. So it allows me to do something like this. Let me show you. So if I go to my game.ts now, right, I want to create my function. Actually, what I'll do is right now I'll put it up on GitHub because there's a lot of changes I made. And I'll say added create.js libraries and type files. So that's what I've done really at the end of the day, check mark, and I'll push. So go up on my GitHub, you'll see everything you need. This is why I'm making this template in the first place to get going. Okay, so again, I'm building it out with you, but this is, I could have just given it to you, but I want to build it out so you see how I'm creating it, okay? All right, this is not what I want, right? I want to create, I'm going to use let. Here's my TypeScript. I'm going to let my stage be equal to a create.js if everything goes well, and of course it's not going well today. Sorry, I may have to reinitialize my Visual Studio Code. I apologize. It's my system because recently I upgraded to Node.js latest version, and I had to blow away my Node.js, and of course I still have side effects that I didn't foresee. But that's fine. Yes, so what I meant is if I said let stage equal to a create.js, notice how create.js comes up. Here's the my namespace, create.js. It comes up, so I don't have to guess what it is. I have all the language details right here. Dot stage. See how I'm getting that? So let stage is equal to create.js.stage. I also want to make a reference to my canvas, which is of type HTML element, right? So all I'm doing is I'm using type hinting rules to tell me what my stage and my canvas is, the type that it is. Now, instead of doing this, I'm going to leave this from here and put it back into my main. That's what I got so far. And in my stage, what I want to do is I want to say something like this. I want to say, well, canvas is equal to document.getElementById. I want to make a reference to the canvas element. That makes a reference. I get a reference to my canvas element in my canvas. Now, why am I getting this code hinting? HTML element. This is new. Get element by ID. I didn't spell it properly, but that's not the reason why it's doing this. Amazing. Always get special. You always get bad things happening when you don't expect them. That's just not code hinting. By the way, when you get a code hint problem like this, you can always take the TypeScript away and make it any. You don't know what it is. That's weird because if I hover over it, I can tell this is a HTML element. I know that that's what it is. Next stage. Let's keep going. Is equal to a new create.js. Create.js. I went too fast. Dot stage, and I need a canvas element I'm passing in. So remember I talked about the stage being a JavaScript container that sits inside of my canvas element or over top. And I want you to think about my canvas element as a dry erase board. I'm going to erase it and redraw the pixels every frame. Okay, every frame. I'm going to keep drawing and erasing the pixels on the canvas. Okay, so that's the next part. Now I'm going to set up the clock. All right, the clock is going to run at 60 frames per second. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say create.js ticker rate, right, is equal to 60 frames per second. So my tick function is going to operate at 60 frames per second. And now every tick, that's a new event. I'm going to create an event handler to say that every tick of the clock, I want to call a function. And what function am I going to call? Update. Update is going to call every 60 frames per second. So that's going to where I'm going to refresh. I'm going to do all my animation, all my stuff inside that update function. So I'm going to say create.js ticker on. That's the quick way of doing add event listener with create.js. On tick, call the update function. Right? All right, and then after that, I want to go to main. We're just going to say game started. So in here, what I want to do is, bear with me, I know I'm running late, guys. Show you hello world. In my update function, I want to use my stage object, and I want to call its own update method. Like this. So every 60 frames per second, I'm clearing the stage. I'm refreshing the stage over and over again. That's what I'm doing here. That's the method I'm using here. And by the way, what create.js is doing is using request animation frame to clear the stage and create its own counter or ticker, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so this is good. So we've set up our stage. If it works, if this works, then I'm going to go back down here and reset up light server. And what I should get, no error, and it should say game started, right? So if I go back to inspect, and if I go to console, I get game started, right? That means, and by the way, if you don't trust that this is the way it's working, right? Because did I transpile? Right? That's a problem, right? Let's try transpiling first because I forgot. We're going to fix that by the bug, by the way, because we can make it so that it's always listening for any changes, and then it transpiles automatically. Not today, next week. All right, cool. So we transpiled. You can see that the changes were made here. These are all the changes that were made, right? And if I go back to the browser, right, and if I go back to console, I got a reference error, right? It says uncaught reference error, CreateJS is not defined at start. All right, let's refresh that. So in game.ts 8, okay. And that's a problem. No, this is actually absolutely correct. Why is this not working? Because in my index.html, remember my index.html, right, is my my manifest, right? And did I load the modules for CreateJS right here? I have to load them, right? Because CreateJS, even though I've loaded them, it doesn't do it automatically for me. I got to add these script files in here, right? So let me add a few more script files. So one, I'm just going to use this to copy and paste for now and change them. Right, under lib, notice that where it is, scripts, lib, easel.js, lib, right? Don't worry, I'll put this up online and you'll get it everything after this, right? It's just the first time, right? easel.0.8.2.min.js. easel.js-0.8.2.min.js. And how do I know that? Because I've done this a million times. There it is, right? And then I go do the same thing for the other ones. So lib, and instead of easel, I got to go to clean. Because it doesn't understand what those are. I've got my good code hinting, but it doesn't help me unless I load the libraries, right? So tween.js, lib, I know I'm running late. Please bear with me. A few more minutes. tween.js-0.6.2.min. I know I saw that. -0.6.2.min.js. This is almost the exact same now. So I'm going to start copying this part a couple times because 6.2 is exactly the same one that I have. It just not, instead of tween, it's going to be sound and preload. So sound, oops, sound. This is preload. I got to change those other things too. And instead of sound, it goes sound.js. There's a bunch of them, but it's sound.js.0.6.2. And the last one, and you can say, is there no way faster to do this? No, this is JavaScript, baby, right? This is, you have to suffer with JavaScript a little bit, right? But after we do the setup the first time, we're good to go. Would you be able to do this on your own? Yes, you can. It just takes a little bit of know-how and for you to have done it a couple times. Okay, there we go. So we've got everything now. Now does it work? And let's check the console. So don't worry about this violation because we're not doing the right. It's happening on the browser sync, right? And now we know we're going to game TS19, right? If I look at my structure, right, in my core folder, right, game TS19 is here, right? We're in main, so it worked. A really quick demonstration. I'll do a really quick hello world that spins right around, okay? And I'm going to do that by doing something like this. I'm going to say hello world label, hello label, let's say, which is of type createjs.text, right? It's here. I'm defining it. And down in here, all I need to do for CreateJS is do something like this. Hello label, right, is equal to a new createjs.text object, right? And notice I have a few options I have to put in. One of them is hello world. That's the actual text of the object. Then the font, 40, let's say 40 pixels, some really ugly font, right? And then the color, which I'm going to use is 0000000, a black font, right, on a white background so you can see it. Is this enough? Does this get added into the stage? No, this is just an object I created, right? Unless I add it as a child to the stage container, nothing happens. So I got to do that. I got to say, well, a couple things actually. My stage, remember, whenever we're making a video game, right? The most part, my coordinate system is top left. So top left is where my 0, 0 point is. And I'm using X this way, positive X on the right, and positive Y down. All objects that you create are containers in Create.js. And they all have a registration mark or a pivot point at the top left corner of each of the objects. So hello label is a label, but it's a container. And the registration point is the top left. I want to move that registration point in the middle of the object. So I can pivot it around the middle, not around the left corner. For now, though, let's add hello label to stage really quickly. Stage.addChild. And I'll say hello label. Now we should be able to see the effects of this immediately. Everything went well, right? So once I've created this, and if I transpile, thank you very much, Tom, right? And if I go back, you should see hello world pop up in the top left corner, right? Because that's what I've told it to do, right? This is not a font. This is pixels that I've converted the font glyphs into pixels and thrown them onto the stage, right? So you can't copy and paste this hello world pixels. Okay, cool. However, it's on the top left. So a couple things I need to do. I'm going to go to hello label, and I'm going to change the regx value, so the registration mark on the x-axis of the actual label object itself. And I'm going to say that it is my hello label size measured. There's a special method you can use. I'm going to talk about this again. Don't worry. Get measured width. Apply that by 0.5. So I'm going to say half the width of the label. I'm going to put that's where the registration mark is going to be, right? And I'm also going to say that the reg y similarly, right, is equal to hello label and then get measured height, right, times 0.5. So that's going to give me the registration marks. Now if I save this and transpile, right, and if I look back here, you can see that when I transpile, that hello label is going to be up here because now it's at the halfway mark. That's the new pivot point. That's where it starts drawing from. Okay. Great. Now I need to make my x and y coordinates. It's absolute positioning. So my x coordinate is going to be 640 by 480, 320, and my hello label y coordinate is going to be 240. Oh. Showing the transpile manually because next week you're going to love me. It's all going to be done automatically. Right? What was that? Yes, there's automatic way of doing it. So notice my hello label's in the middle. Really boring though. And the last thing I want to do before we go, and I'll stop recording as well, update method, every frame, that's firing, right? That's triggering. So this is the place that I want to do rotations, manipulations, and all that kind of stuff, right? So I can go into my update method and do something like this. Hello label dot rotation plus equals to 5 degrees. And if I save it and transpile it, then when I go back, if I did everything well, it's going to do this. Now, you might think this is easy. Like when you look at it, okay, so you moved it 5 degrees every frame. So every frame, it's moving 5 degrees, right? But remember, anything I put inside my update method will continue to work every frame. So every frame, it's going to change it's going to translate or rotate the entire object that I've put in on the canvas, right? Every frame. It's triggering at 60 frames per second. That means every 16.66 milliseconds. It's going to keep doing this, right? And it's pretty fast. So if I sit there and if I say something like hello label.x is also plus equals to 5, on the x coordinate axis, and I save, then you're going to see that not only is it rotating, but it's also going to move, right? So again, it's a simple example, but the point is that we must understand how the update method works. It's being triggered by this event handler. My event handler says, well, every tick of the clock, call my update method, every tick of the clock. And then in my update method, do something. Should take place. Now you're going to say, well, how do I make a game out of this now? Oops. How do I make a game out of this? Well, let's imagine for a second before we continue, because we're not going to do any more today. This same structure, start, update, main, that same structure in your head is for each game object. I have a player. It has a start, update, main. We're setting up this structure. No one's telling us to set up the structure. Crate.js is unopinionated. It doesn't tell you how to use it. It just says, here's what the thing can do. You set up the structure. So imagine if we can set up a structure where we have this start, update, and so on, right? Well, if I set it up, and if I call the object's update method inside my game's update method, then the object will be updated every frame. So if I want to move my object around, I just have to call its update method every frame. And that's what we're going to do. That's how the game is going to work, right? So this update method is the main game loop for the entire game. Okay. And in fact, I could have called it, I really wanted to, because really that's what it is. Okay, that's it for today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up on GitHub finally, and I will diagnose my problems for next week, so we won't have that issue. But I won't have to do any of this stuff. I won't have to install Create.js. My recommendation to you for next week, start with my template, right? I've shown you how to build it, and you can watch the video to find it and build it on your own, right? But I want you to start with my template so that we're all on the same page. Because next week, we're going to do less administration than we did this week and more coding as we go along, because we need to do that. I need to get you up to speed to make a game, right? And like I said, we're making it from scratch, people. There is no framework. We're not making a drag and drop game. This is like coding from scratch. Added references. So we did to Create.js in index.html. That's why it didn't work. Okay, and we're going to go to, there are no stage commits, cancel. We want to do one of these maybe. How about that? And then do this. So we have to add those in and then click this and then push. Now I'm doing this because I don't have to go to the terminal. I can do it all regularly. So if you go back up to the files here, you can see all the files now we have up on GitHub. These are all of them. There's one folder that's missing, which is assets, because we haven't added anything in. Otherwise, for the rest of them, it's everything that's up here is the way it should be. Any questions before we end for the day? I know we're over by 12 minutes. I apologize. Actually, more than 12 minutes, 20 minutes, because you're supposed to be done at 10 to the hour. Any questions? I know it's a lot. I know it seems mind-boggling and even like overwhelming, right? When you look at this for the first time. But it's a process. Once you go through the process and understand how it's built, then you can build anything you want, right? Modules, I'm going to add it, so we're going to split across different files and create subfolders for everything we want to do. Yeah.
I just have a question about creative.
Yes.
So do people actually use it?
Yes. Yeah. It's one of a popular.
Being based on JavaScript.
Well, that's what we, for web, that's what we use, right? We use JavaScript, right? We even Phaser is JavaScript. It's just another framework, right? Web game programming, it's actually Adobe is where Create.js came from. So Adobe made Flash, and the port for Flash was the code for Flash was ActionScript, and because Flash is dead, they've made Create.js so that when you export from Flash the new Adobe Animate into web, it actually creates a Create.js backend. That's what it does. So it's already built in inside Adobe. And Grant Skinner, the guy who made Create.js, was the guy who worked on ActionScript. right? So that's where it comes from. So that's why it's being used everywhere. So when you go, so you have some person who's not a programmer and they make something with Flash, and then suddenly they can make a game. Right? Any other questions? I know you had a question.
Yeah, I noticed that we have to always type create JS and whatever class we want to use.
Right.
Like a namespace.
It is a namespace.
Yeah. How is there something like C++, like using namespace, so we don't
No.
have to that every time?
We can make an alias. So I can make C dot. I can make C equal to create.js. I can do that, right? But I don't recommend it. And a using statement only works on some things with C++ or C#. It's not fully compatible with all things. You got to be careful with the usings, right? It's great for a certain system, but if you try and make a game with usings, sometimes it's a bad thing to avoid them, right? Import, yes. Usings, typically, no. We don't want to use usings, right? Because it's good for Visual Studio and Microsoft C++. What about the other C++? Compatible, and you got to be careful, right? So the same thing here. We want to make it so it's cross-compatible, and so we call the namespace of the library, right? I know it's a pain, but once we create our objects, we're going to create our own objects called label, right? We're not going to call create.js.text. We're going to call, right? Which is a little bit more intuitive. Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? Victor, you good? I know it's a lot. I know if you've never seen it before, it's like, oh, right? But you're going to get it, guys. And we're going to have more practice with this stuff. All right, that's it for me, and we'll see you next week on Saturday. People, stick around if you have any questions.